Jesus game se ka hwangatu mngonga ipapilhonga ungovalhonga. Kina almunak atamon aglanganan ngatukut ko hwangamkun. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by me. My favorite verse. My Yupik name is Amaralek. English name is Beulah. I was born here in Gamble and live here all my life.
The Yupik people have lived on this island for about 2,500 years. They live off the land and off the ocean. That has been their way of life for all those years. St. Lawrence Island is about 150 miles off of the mainland of Alaska and 42 miles from the Russian Far East. You can see the mountains across the water.
We're a maritime people. We're seafarers. Our culture and our language has been ways and means of survival for many, many, many centuries.
My parents were with Wycliffe Bible translators. They were assigned to translate the Bible into Yupik, which is what was spoken on St. Lawrence Island. We moved to the island in 1959 when I was 4 years old.
I was a teenager. I saw them, little Debbie and David with them, and they were part of our family. They became us. In fact, Mitzi was my Bible school teacher, not knowing that we would be working together.
So my parents had to learn the language when they first got here, and then had to devise an alphabet in order to write the language so that they could begin translating. They had three main co-translators, Eleanor Uziva, Susan Campbell, and Beulah Napakahak.
I was just a student at that time when I first became a translator with them. And then Eleanor, the main translator, she taught me a lot.
Translating into Yupik, that's not easy. It's hard. It's difficult. There's lots of English words we have no word for in Yupik.
Apostle Paul uses so many hard words. When we get to heaven, we're going to ask Apostle Paul, how come you made it too hard for us to translate? We struggle a lot. Eleanor always said to me when we have so much problems, this is all for the glory of God. So that was our theme, all for the glory of God. Someday, we will all see the glory of God in what we have done.
Not just the translation, but some of the hardships they would go through. They would give God the glory in spite of these things. Their faith in Him was so strong.
I lost so much of my family members. Cancer, natural death, fire, accidental deaths. I wouldn't know what to do if it weren't for the scriptures. They give me hope. The Lord said, I will be the husband to the widows and father to the fatherless.
They were dedicated. Whatever it took, they wanted to see that New Testament finished and to be able to rejoice. And I am so grateful to the Lord that they were able to do that before Dad passed.
When we complete the New Testament and have a dedication services, that was wonderful. When I read from the pulpit the scriptures in our language, they listen, truly listen, and nod their heads. And that's a joy that they're hearing it in our own language.
I myself, I found more understanding hearing it in my own language. Some of the verses have been like blown up, like with magnifying glass.
The completed New Testament is giving me a hand in understanding. Reading it in our language seemed to tuck in something that's missing in regards to what he's trying to tell us in his word.
The Aguzipik translation comes from the Lord, and now we have the printed word. He made sure that the gospel will be transferred from generation to generation. we're humble enough to be a little part of that.
The final phase of the translation has been getting the New Testament ready for the Russian Yupik speakers across the water. And of course, theirs has to be done in the Russian alphabet, the Cyrillic alphabet. I've also heard that there is an interest in translating the Old Testament, and I pray that they are able to complete the Old Testament now on their own. They have the tools. I know they can do it.
Just like God gave the language to the Hebrews, He gave us His special language for Him, for His glory. I want to be up in heaven and praise God in my own language. Jesus came to save the people from all the penalty of sin. And my prayer is that people will open their hearts to the Lord before He comes.
The Yupik name for this island is Siboko, which means the Creator reached into the sea floor and rinsed it out or wrung it out. That's what it means. Wrung it out or rinsed out. You know, you could, if you see it, the right hand print, the palm is where we are. I'm not in a rush to destroy such a beautiful place. Why develop it when we have everything we need right here?
St. Lawrence Island is located right in the middle of the Bering Sea. It's a breeding ground for all marine mammals.
Whales, walrus, seals, polar bears, fish. Our way of life since time immemorial, living off the land, living off the ocean. Our biggest food security is from the Bering Sea. With all this Northwest Passage opening, the biggest concern was noise and pollution from the ships. So we feel and believe that, you know, the noise is already making an impact. We've noticed that the whales are moving further away, the walruses.
One of the issues is it's the Bering Strait. You know, it's a narrow passage through which lots of animals migrate every year. So that's a natural point of interest. We want to know when animals are passing through the Bering Strait.
When we come to games, we have to be quiet. You have to be idle in the boat, and you dip the oar in the water and you put it in your ear like this, and you can hear the sound.
So sound propagates in the ocean much better than light does, and marine mammals who evolved in the marine environment have used this property of sound. They can use sound to find mates, to keep contact with their offspring, and so it's very important for marine mammals. So we go out on a boat and we deploy these instruments in the bottom of the ocean. They are anchored to a heavy weight, and we just drop them off the boat. And they're tubular shaped, about this size, and they have tiny little electronic circuits inside them who do all the recording. And they have a hydrophone attached, an underwater microphone.
You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that sound goes further in the ocean than it does in the air.
Yeah, this is my special spot. I don't know. Comfortable seating arrangements, and it's in the middle of nowhere. And it's so quiet that it's loud when you're up here by yourself. So it's a good spot. So, it was called Birdie. We did 4 services a week, only 56 covers for the entire week, and we were your waiters, and we had a little turntable, and I doubled as a DJ, and we changed the menu completely every week. 17 months, we did 500 or so dishes. I had 75 employees. I was running 3 restaurants. It just took its toll after, 8 years. Every day was chaos. Eventually, just over time, broke down, burnt out, and I left. I needed to get out and figure out how to start over and, what I wanted to do next. I've had some good thinking here, yeah.
Well, I think he was looking for a couple of things. I like to say he was looking for healing, primarily. Rockwell Kent, who was born in 1882, was an American painter, probably one of his most famous graphic artists. Early in his career, he came to Alaska in August of 1918. He came to Alaska to create a body of work that could attract attention. And he eventually settled on Fox Island in Resurrection Bay, about 12 miles south of Seward. He was there with his 8-year-old son, and he spent the winter. Oh, he was wrestling with many, many demons. First of all, his career. Where was it going? How was he going to earn a living in art? And for him, it was either becoming an artist or nothing. But mostly it was his love life that was falling apart. His marriage had been in trouble for a number of years. His wife, Kathleen, wouldn't come and didn't want to have anything more to do with Rockwell Kent in the wilderness. So he really came here to get away. That solitude was part of the healing. He had an idea of wildness, but not quite the wildness that he was going to experience here.
What a scene. Twin lofty mountain masses flanked the entrance, and from the back of these, the land dipped downwards like a hammock swung between them, its lower point behind the center of a crescent. A clean and smooth, dark pebbled beach went all around the bay, the tide line marked with driftwood, gleaming bleached bones of trees, fantastic roots, and warm and shredded trunks. Above the beach, a band of brilliant green, and then the deep black spaces of the forest. And we leapt ashore and followed the beach on the level ground, seeing and wondering with beating hearts and crying all the time to ourselves, "It isn't possible. It isn't real."
So he'd come to places like Alaska to experience the real wild and furious nature and realize that there are forces bigger than him, and I think that made him feel more secure.
It's absolutely why I'm here. I read or I draw, and I have definitely responsibilities, and I play a major role in, the success of the operation, but it doesn't seem so earth-shattering, and I'm just more relaxed, I think everything slows down. And there's a lot of improvising as far as if I ordered something and it didn't show up, I'm able to make use of what we have, whereas I can't just run to the grocery store and pick up something I forgot. Hey, cream cheese. Yay! You know, from a food perspective, like trying to figure out how to work things into the cuisine that, you know, speak to place is important to me. So, you know, using these foraged things like beach greens or spruce tips or blueberries, you know, trying to give the guest an experience, you know, something tangible that they can hold on to. Hey, this is Alaskan, you know, that's my, you know, angle of creativity. I mean, I'm cooking for 20 guests at the most per day, and I have 3 employees in the kitchen, and it's just so quiet. This just adds a little accent, you know?
Thursday, October 3rd. Today was fair at sunrise, cloudy at 9 o'clock, and showery all the rest. We worked again with the beloved cross-cut saw, setting ourselves an almost unattainable task, and then surpassing it. And I cleared the thicket for a better view of the mountain to the south, and in the afternoon felled another large tree. Stretched canvas for a while, and painted and drew, and felt the goddess inspiration returning to me.
He was on a mission. Yeah, as he wrote in one of his letters, this is no artist's junket. And that experience produced a body of work that finally gave him the fame that he was looking for. He left in March of 1919, went back to New York and had a very successful show of his work.
I feel like I have nothing but space out here. Yeah, I mean, look around. It's just vast expanse, you know, everywhere you look. Even 100 years later, you can still escape the chaos of modern day society. You know, that's one of the huge draws of the island for me. It's been a very cathartic experience.
I think too much adventure today is a distraction from the inner life. And see, Kent was saying there's an inner life that is as much adventurous as the outer life. And that's what the adventure is. The adventure is delving inward. And that's what Kent says, the wilderness is ourselves. And he was really thinking about who he was and where do I want to go, what do I want to be. I don't think he completely solved all of that.
On our menu, we're kind of more going towards wild Alaska game. We are a lodge here centered in Southeast Alaska. So elk, venison, caribou, those kinds of items.
We offer wild game, we offer fresh seafood. Right off the boats, we know where our halibut comes from, we know where our salmon comes from, so it's actually a beautiful thing. It's fun to work and know where your source of protein is coming from.
Indian Valley meats in northern Alaska, and a lot of them are indigenous to Alaska. In our gift shops and everywhere here, we sell a lot of local products and things that are made in Alaska. Other than some of the cuisine is the view. The view in the dining room is absolutely amazing, and when you're at a point of mountain view, then the ocean is absolutely breathtaking.
I'm Wes, from New York originally. I came up to Alaska 6 years ago and just fell in love with it, and I've been here ever since. What surprises people about Alaska culinary scene is what amazing ingredients we have here. I know they see us on a map all the way up north and they think it's cold all the time, but in our summertime, with the iron-rich soil and the 24-hour sunlight, we actually get some beautiful, beautiful vegetables here. The blueberries and amazing seafood. Tonight is our first night of the 2-day culinary event. So our dishes tonight are going to be a white bean velouté, and then we're going to move on to a pan-seared Alaska halibut. I got you guys halibut that actually is swimming right here in Resurrection Bay. Never frozen, so you guys are going to have some amazing, amazing halibut. It's one of the main items in the Alaskan economy, so we make sure they're still wild and they're still sustainable, and we get to enjoy it at the same time. Society is congregating around the kitchen again, which is an amazing thing. Really, I love sharing, I love talking about food, and I love showing people techniques. And if they're passionate about cooking, I'm so happy to teach them. And let's enjoy this Alaskan meal.
Seen Sarah Palin's Alaska, but there's so much more. Welcome to the rest of this great state and to our Alaska. Welcome to Little Diomede. Here, forget cars or buses. A steep, rocky island isolated in the middle of the Bering Strait, helicopters, planes, and boats are the only way to get around. Home to master ivory carvers and traditional hunters, these days, the island's resilient villagers who have withstood the brutal Arctic environment for centuries are working to maintain their place in an ever-changing world. Oh, and we should mention that with nearby Big Diomede just a few miles away, Little Diomede is the one place in Alaska where you really can see Russia from your porch.
Our 2.5-hour Sitka Harbor and Islands paddle is perfect to fit any schedule and will take you through the picturesque harbor islands in the Sitka Sound. Beyond the harbor, we'll explore island shores and kelp forest while keeping an eye out for abundant wildlife above and below the water's surface. Throughout the tour, your attentive, friendly guide will share interesting stories about the area, explain the ecology of the forest and ocean, and point out wildlife. Be prepared. Those who try our kayaking adventures are usually hooked for life.
Just the fact that we even have a temperate rainforest in Alaska is not a thing that people normally think about when they think about Alaska.
This is one of the largest intact temperate rainforests in the world. Yeah, well, I'm a commercial salmon troller. The Tongass Forest is basically all of southeast Alaska, the whole panhandle. It encompasses all these islands and the archipelago that's part of the mainland.
Often my job is creating connections so that we can advocate on behalf of the Tongass. If we don't protect the habitat, we're not going to have the fish. Salmon live their life in the ocean, but they start out in the rivers and the streams, and people forget that. We need to have intact ecosystems for salmon habitat, which the Tongass is just an amazing salmon producer. We have all the water from the rainforest, we have these amazing trees.
The salmon and the forest are an integral part of each other. They're just totally interlocked. The salmon live in the streams. Certain times of the year you look and there's just a million little fry in these little tributaries. And then eventually they go out to sea, but they all come back supposedly to the stream that they started. But they go up and they spawn, they die, and their carcasses and the living ones that are caught by bears and other critters are taken out into the woods and literally up to 5 football fields away from any body of water that's got salmon in it. There's salmon DNA in those trees. Everything feasts on the salmon. They're just the lifeblood of the forest. And the Tongass National Forest is a treasure of ecological services that give us fresh water, fresh air.
If we can take care of this place takes care of us.
The dominant natural feature of the Tongass National Forest is trees. This is, after all, America's largest national forest, but a surprisingly important part of the forest is less visible, beneath the surface. These old pilings are just some of the above-ground remains of a vast network of underground gold mines that established the towns of Juneau and Douglas in the late 1800s. Go to Prince of Wales Island and you'll find hundreds of caves. In other parts of the Tongass, remnants of old volcanoes are visible, and current hot springs are still heated by the Earth's core. The complex geology of the Tongass has resulted in a wild array of features, including gold ore, But many of these features are hidden beneath the Tongass.
This cave is the largest known cave in Alaska. It's one of the longest known caves in Alaska.
El Capitan Cave on Prince of Wales Island has been opened to the public by the Forest Service, which manages caves on the Tongass National Forest. El Cap is just one of hundreds of caves already discovered. Jim Bechtel knows Alaska's caves. He's the geologist for the Tongass with responsibilities for karst and cave management. Bechtel is from Washington, and he grew up in the shadow of Mount St. Helens.
Fascination with Alaska. I grew up listening to stories from my grandfather in the years that he spent up here, and I always wanted to come, and the opportunity came along, and I grabbed it.
Once in Alaska, Bechtel grabbed onto the geologic history of Southeast Alaska. It's a history that shows the importance of Earth forces in creating surface features that are important today. And it's a history that began millions of years ago.
We're at the end of the plate tectonic conveyor belt. 10 to 11 pieces of continents which no longer exist came rafted in on plates. So these small fragments of continents have just been stacked up along our outer shores.
Plate tectonics created the Southeast Alaska we see today, but of course there have been other significant forces at play.
The largest modification that's happened on the landscape over the last 2 million years is multiple glacial advances. So those boundaries between the terrains and the major fault lines as a result of how Southeast was assembled is what the ice worked on to build our fjords and our straits and our channels. It's been suggested that magma moved up along those fractures right after the ice started to pull back in Southeast Alaska, creating a series of volcanic eruptions, such as Mount Edgecombe and the Mount Edgecombe volcanic field. We also see other volcanic cones and events, such as New Eddystone Rock, which is the core of an old volcano. The same fracture systems that allowed the magma to come up to spread out volcanism throughout Southeast Alaska probably is allowing groundwater to get down to depth to come up into these hot springs.
Geology and mining have also played a pivotal role in the history of Southeast Alaska and its economy. By the late 1800s, gold discoveries had attracted many. In Juneau, the Alaska Juneau gold mine prospered for over half a century before closing in the 1940s. Mining remains an important industry beneath the Tongass to this day. Mining operations on the Tongass continue to contribute to employment and to the economies of the state and many communities. For example, the Kennecott Greens Creek mine is one of the largest silver producers in North America and the top producer of zinc from National Forest System lands. This underground mine is located on the northern end of Admiralty Island National Monument. It's unique in that it operates within a national monument, but on a very small footprint of just 320 acres. In addition to gold, silver, and zinc, other valuable minerals under the Tongass include platinum, molybdenum, copper, lead, uranium, iron, marble, and limestone. Southeast Alaska's complex geology includes large karst landscapes. They're formed in underground limestone deposits that have been dissolved by acidic water seeping through from the surface.
There's two ways that water gets into the karst system. One by a major stream that flows directly into a cave entrance. And the second is through all the fractures that underlie the forest. And that's why the forest is what we refer to as well-drained.
These well-drained karst areas are among the most productive in the Tongass. Trees grow larger and faster because their roots hold better in the rock fissures and because of the good drainage provided by fractured limestone. Acidic muskeg water that seeps through limestone caves emerges with a higher pH. This nutrient-rich and buffered water results in more algae in the streams for fish and large productive clam beds near beaches. Increasingly, the karst areas are recognized for their caves, particularly on Prince of Wales Island.
We have inventoried only a small portion of Southeast Alaska. We know of about 700 caves right now across the Tongass. We find 20 to 30 new caves a year.
The Forest Service and experienced spelunkers have carefully explored and mapped Tongass caves. They have made discoveries that change fundamental understandings of early Southeast Alaska.
In 1990, when we first started seriously working in the caves, it was thought that, and reported and written in many places, that glacial ice covered all of Southeast Alaska to the edge of the continental margin, 3,000 feet thick, and nothing existed here and nothing lived here. Up the small side passage here, some 400 feet inside the cave, are the claw marks of a bear in the mud of this passage. There's no way of knowing how long these claw marks have been here, but the stable environment inside the cave may have preserved them for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. We started realizing that there were places that animals survived through the last ice age. So if the animals could survive out there, that there were corridors out there that people could have moved through that were unglaciated.
These discoveries challenged the theory that the only way for the first people to enter North America was over the Bering Land Bridge and through an interior corridor between melting ice sheets.
The concept of coastal migration that was proposed long ago by Knut Fladmark was strengthened by the discoveries here in Southeast Alaska from inside the caves. The oldest artifact that we found inside the cave that is unquestionably of human origin is a flaking tool that's 10,300 years old. And then there were the human remains that was found on a cave here in northern Prince of Wales Island that dated to 9,700 years old.
The discoveries already made in Southeast Alaska caves have been significant. No one knows how many caves are yet to be found and what other surprises they may reveal.
What's it look like from there?
It's a steep, narrow pit that drops down about 20 feet from up here.
We've now cataloged over 50,000 bones from 13 different caves across the Tongass that span way beyond the dating capability of carbon-14, which is 45,000 years, and younger is its ability. And it's painted a completely different picture of life on the Tongass over the last 50,000 years.
So whether it's caves, hot springs, volcanoes, or gold mines, there's a lot more to the Tongass than meets the eye. So when you're using your cell phone with its gold-printed circuits, or you hear a new theory as to how the first people came to North America, remember, there's a connection with what's beneath the Tongass. For the Tongass National Forest, I'm Pete Griffin.
on the edge of Alaska, where the Pacific Ocean clashes with rugged mountains, stands one of America's most unique public lands. To the naked eye, it's a landscape dominated by towering trees and water. But deep in the forest, under the shade of ancient spruce and hemlocks, and in the gravels of crystal clear rivers, a miracle is born. One that has sustained life here for millennia and continues to today.
It's amazing for me to think about, all the way from that egg that's deposited in the river, what an impact salmon have on the livelihoods of so many people across not only Southeast Alaska, but the entire world.
Join us as we follow salmon on their epic annual journey from the ocean back to the streams of the forest, revealing along the way what ultimately makes this public land one of our greatest national treasures. This is the Tongass National Forest of Southeast Alaska. It's the largest national forest in America, and together with its sister forest, the Chugach, they make up the most expansive, intact temperate rainforest on Earth. It's now July, and anticipation is in the air. Animals from all over the forest are beginning to congregate along the streams. This mother bear and her cubs are the newest arrivals. They've traveled here from their winter den in the high country, eager for the annual return of salmon. The streams are quiet, but Mom knows that's about to change. This is the start of one of Earth's greatest migrations. After years feeding out in the open ocean, Pacific salmon are finally heading home to streams in the forest. King, sockeye, coho, pink, and chum salmon all thrive here, and together make schools numbering in the millions. Life here in the Tongass National Forest depends on salmon for survival, and as they make their way into the coastal waters, they're met with the first people who engage with their journey.
My name's Carl Jordan. I have the fishing vessel Samara. It's a Southeast Alaska power trolling vessel, so I fish commercially for all 5 species of salmon.
Moses Johnson, fishing vessel Cloud 9. Started in the seine skiff when I was 7 and did that for 25 years and then moved on deck.
Mo and Carl are among a rare breed of men and women in America who still head out to sea to harvest wild salmon. Their entire year depends on a few months of successful fishing, so when the season starts, they have no time to waste.
There is some fish in this area. We're getting ready to fish. You can see some schools of bait fish, which are the smaller kind of clouds. So if we look around and we see some whales and seabirds diving on the fish, those are good indications that the ecosystem's healthy. And those are kind of indicators that I look for when I'm deciding where to fish.
Over the generations, fishermen here have mastered distinct strategies for catching each of the Tongass's 5 salmon species. Right now, Carl's trolling for high-dollar coho, which have to be caught with individual hooks and lines.
Trolling is more of an artisan fishery. It's kind of smaller scale. We're harvesting the fish one at a time. So each fish is kind of individually handled for care and quality because it's ultimately going to end up on somebody's dinner plate.
Carl will have a few weeks to reach his fishing quota, catching on average less than 100 salmon a day. But Mo's going after much bigger numbers and doesn't have the same luxury of time.
There's a lot riding on every opening. You get to fish basically 15 hours at a time. Compared to other fisheries where you got room for error, you make the wrong choice, you could make it up some other time, but seining's a lot different.
Seining allows fishermen like Mo to catch huge schools of pink salmon. They're the most abundant salmon on Earth, and in Southeast Alaska, the National Forest here produces 95% of the catch. Over the decades, Mo's learned how to spot pinks in the open ocean, but he can't miss a step if he wants to hit it big.
You have to have a small skiff on one end of the net and the large boat on the other end. Circle the salmon, bring both ends of the net together. Hopefully there's a bunch of them.
This haul has over 2,000 pounds of wild salmon and is a glimpse at why the Tongass is such a national treasure. It's a public resource that provides healthy food for people around the world and allows fishermen like Mo and Carl to thrive.
A large set seining would be, depending upon the price, some years it's thousands and thousands of dollars, and some years you can make your season on one day.
When I harvest a lot of fish, it's a payday. I mean, this is how I bought my first house. This is how we pay for a vehicle. You know, it's very important for not only my family, but also the other businesses. It's a big business in Alaska, but it's not one big business. It's thousands of little businesses that all add up to a really big industry.
The Tongass National Forest produces 25% of all wild-caught salmon in the Northeast Pacific. That's nearly 50 million salmon each year. It's an industry that generates over $1 billion for the economy and employs 1 in 10 people in Southeast Alaska. But as anyone who's ever visited here can tell you, this is just the beginning of salmon's impact along their journey home.
But you come up here and it's so very different than the lower 48. You go on these adventures and you'll see this incredible landscape around here and seascapes, oceanscapes. And maybe hopefully you'll see the big web of life that salmon fit into.
The Tongass National Forest is home to over 100 species of animals that depend directly on salmon for survival, offering visitors a glimpse of some of America's most iconic wildlife. As a result, tourism has flourished over the last few decades, giving rise to a whole new set of small businesses.
My name is Ray Troll. I'm an artist. I live in Ketchikan, Alaska. We're right on the border where all the ships first come into Alaska. We have close to 1 million people who come through our town of about 13,000 humans on the side of this mountain.
Ray began his career as a print artist in the early 80s, when tourism was only a small part of the economy here. He knew there was something unique about the salmon culture that surrounded him, and decided to put his skills to use.
Here I was in this new land and my notebooks were filling up with, fishy drawings and that kind of thing. And I was a printmaker, so I knew how to pull a squeegee, and I began to do these t-shirts.
Ray's work comes in an incredible variety of shapes and colors, but it all draws on a common theme.
Well, let's spawn, then humpies from hell. That was a big time is fun when you're having flies. Walk softly and carry a big fish. Sockeye delic, spawn of the dead, return of the sockeye. That's a bunch right there. Puns are dangerous things, lethal. They make people groan and moan. And sometimes they'll make them laugh. So that's what I try to do.
A career as a fish artist might sound funny, but today, Ray's gallery does serious business, selling thousands of shirts throughout the summer months to visitors from around the world. It's a testament to how central salmon are to Southeast Alaska's appeal. But it wasn't always this way. There was a time in the Tongass when businesses like Ray's didn't even exist, when towns like Ketchikan weren't filled with tourists, but with loggers.
When I first got here to the Tongass, the timber industries were huge. They thought that the forest here was on a 50-year rotation cycle. Cut them down, 50 years later, you get the same forest again. There were so many clear cuts.
In the early days of Alaskan statehood, logging played an important role in populating the territory. But as the decades passed and the economics of logging faded, the Tongass became less valued for the timber it produced than for the ecosystem and fisheries it sustained.
Now, industrial scale logging is scaled way back, and the tourism industry has maybe doubled and tripled in that time, and really replaced resource extraction.
Today, tourism employs 20% of the workforce and generates more financial impact than any other industry in the region. Shifting priorities from timber to salmon has allowed the Tongass to maximize its public value, ensuring both the ecosystem and the industries that rely on it can prosper.
Yeah, when you stop and think about it, what is pretty cool about the whole situation is that when the salmon are actually in the stream and they're doing their business down there, we simultaneously, right up above them in our little gallery, we're doing business too. We got to be doing business, because if the salmon aren't running, if that whole system isn't working, we are directly affected. We won't make a living. So keep on running, little salmon, keep running.
That's a little easier said than done this year, though. It's now late summer, and the past few weeks have been unusually dry. Low water levels have stranded salmon at the mouth of the river, preventing them from pushing upstream, but giving Mom her first shot at fishing this season. She wades out, with her cubs watching closely. It's been a year since she's caught a salmon, and her technique's a little rusty. But eventually, she lands one. This is the first taste of salmon for our cubs, and the little guy likes it. Maybe a bit too much. The Tongass supports some of the highest densities of brown and black bears on Earth, all looking for their share. Fortunately for the salmon, droughts in a temperate rainforest don't tend to last for long. A warm ocean front is moving in, cooling as it rises up the coastal mountains. Rainfall like this is common in the Tongass, with some parts of the forest receiving more than 200 inches a year. In open country, a downpour like this might cause a flood, but here, the forest ushers the rain into 15,000 miles of rivers and streams, the critical spawning grounds for salmon. For some, waterfalls still stand in the way. But others rise above the challenge. At first, only a few make it through. But soon, the streams rise and fill to the brim, offering up yet another way for people to engage with their journey.
When you show up on a river and you've never been to Alaska and all you see is the entire water surface boiling with fish, people, they can't even contain themselves.
Tad Kasaka runs classic casting adventures out of Sitka, Alaska. He brings clients out to some of the Tongass's wildest and most productive rivers, with the goal of providing a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
I pride myself on the fact that I want people to catch fish.
Yeah.
We fish for the 5 different Pacific salmon species. We fish the estuaries, the rivers, the saltwater. Anything that catches fish, we do it.
We're gonna go a little deeper and you're gonna go right on the edge of that, the wave.
Hours away from the nearest road, surrounded by wildlife and often battling the elements, the people who join Tad here in the Tongass can be in for quite the adventure.
Yeah! Nice salmon!
But for the thousands of anglers who make the trek every year, landing a wild salmon makes it all worth it.
Everyone that comes to Alaska, they want to say, I saw a salmon, I fished for a salmon. As long as salmon is in their sentence, they did it in Alaska. Alaska equals salmon, period.
Come on, bro.
Salmon are at the center of what makes visiting the Tongass such a sought-after experience for so many Americans. But for the people like Tad who call this place home, they're an indispensable part of everyday life.
Because the Tongass National Forest has had the foresight to plan for the future, to have salmon as a resource that is prized and highly valued, Jacob and Lucas will be able to fish for it. Their kids will. Their kids will. Yeah, it's a legacy. Salmon is a legacy.
Dad is fighting them, and you're gonna net them. Good job. Yeah! Right there, yeah! Net job, dog. Nice pink. Woo! Good one, Jakey. Did you tell him thank you?
Thank you. Thank you, fish.
Oh, he's not upright. Let's make sure he's happy. Oh, goodbye, Pinky.
I can see it still,
Hey,
Daddy.
nice job. That was awesome. Can I get a high five?
Healthy salmon runs on the Tongass do more than just provide jobs. They ensure the recreation and subsistence lifestyles unique to this region are protected and continue to thrive.
The salmon are the lifeblood of this community. It's what we live and die by. My wife and my boys, I mean, it's in our... It's in our blood.
For so many people living in the Tongass, the return of salmon to the streams marks a critical time of each year. And that's true for no one more than the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian peoples. They're the first known inhabitants of this region, and their connection to salmon runs deep.
My name is Joel Jackson, and I'm from Cake. Our Tlingit people have lived here in time immemorial. If you look at historically where all the villages were, they were situated around the salmon. It's our way of life. It sustained us for thousands of years.
Long before the Tongass was a national forest, the Tlingit people thrived on the abundance of salmon and other resources provided by this landscape, developing a rich language, stunning art, and a vibrant culture. But over the past 200 years, colonization and encroachment have challenged the Tlingit people, pushing the native language to near extinction and threatening their way of life.
We started the youth elder camp years ago. We had a series of 15 suicides, all from alcohol. So some of the community members got together. We come to the realization we have to help ourselves.
For many here, this is the most important time of year. The arrival of salmon means food on the table, but more importantly, a chance at renewal. A way for village elders, young adults, and children alike to come together as a people and celebrate their traditions.
This is a fish.
The language, of course, we're pushing to bring back, but at the same time, we want to teach them how we take care of our food and how important it is to respect our traditions and our culture. Okay, what I'll be doing is what they call newspaper-style dry fish. This one's a fully dried sockeye. I learned it from my father years ago. I think it's very important to pass it on. I think if you don't know how things were done, you're missing out on a big part of our history of how our people did things.
For nearly 30 years, the Tlingit people of Cake have gathered during the salmon run for culture camps like this one, sharing and strengthening their community through education. Healthy salmon runs on the Tongass have always played an important role for the people in the region, but are now more vital than ever, ensuring the preservation of native identities and the continuation of their unique way of life. It's late August, and salmon have finally returned home to the forest. Millions have run the gauntlet to reach the same stream and often the exact spot where they were born. But they're not the same as when they started the journey. Fresh water has transformed their silver bodies and activated their instincts for spawning. Males and females pair up. And the streams begin to fill with signs of new life. A single salmon can lay over 2,000 eggs, but the journey takes its toll. All Pacific salmon die after spawning, but their bodies are filled with nutrients from the open ocean, and as they're dragged from the streams by bears, eagles, and ravens, they fertilize the trees. It's the final gift of their great migration, one that connects salmon with the forest, and in return provides the clean water, shade, and habitat for their young. This cycle makes the Tongass one of America's most valuable tracts of public lands, and the Forest Service isn't taking that for granted.
So when I think about walking through the perfect salmon stream, I think of big trees. I think of some of those trees being down in the river. It's a crazy, complex environment, and it's alive with fish.
Sheila Jacobson is a fisheries biologist with the U.S. Forest Service.
And that is 1.6.
Along with hydrologist K.K. Prussian, she studied salmon year-round to understand how a healthy forest can keep this resource thriving.
Coho, 53. For us, it's so important to understand what salmon need in the stream system, and therefore we need to get out there and look at that.
Sheila and KK's teams travel across the Tongass,
19-1.
monitoring both healthy streams and streams impacted by past logging activities. Most are topside surveys, but sometimes getting the full picture requires diving in.
So as you're snorkeling through the stream, every area in that stream is being utilized. You're going to see all of these juvenile salmon. It's just an incredible, diverse environment.
Fish counts and stream surveys have helped the Forest Service create some of the best protections for salmon on Earth. And breakthroughs in this research have even helped them mend streams damaged in the past.
94% of the streams and rivers on the Tongass are completely intact. And it's that last 6% that we're focusing our restoration actions on and correcting some of those past management impacts.
These activities help keep the Tongass as a top producer of salmon today. But with climate change and other global impacts on the horizon, their work is more important than ever, ensuring the people and wildlife who depend on salmon today can continue to for generations to come.
Wow, there's trees in all directions. It is pretty amazing, you know, this guy that's this big and spends a little bit of its life in the stream, leaves, goes a long ways away, comes back to the exact same stream, and in that process provides food for so many Alaskans, jobs, you know, is a huge part of our tourism industry and really does a lot to the people in Southeast Alaska.
The Tongass is a very special place for salmon, and as long as the environment is taken care of, it's going to keep going on forever, and it's important to keep it that way.
For me, conservation is a way to utilize. We're conserving the resource so that we can sustainably manage it and continue to harvest off of it.
I don't know, I get to go out and get paid to go fishing with people and show them our world, and then I get to come home and take my boys out.
You see them come in, and you see the fish jumping in the bay. It just brings a smile to your face. There's nothing like it in this world, I don't think.
But the Tongass isn't ultimately just special to the people who live here. It's a true national treasure, a place whose impact is felt all over the country and even beyond.
It's crazy to think that when you go to the store and purchase that piece of wild Alaskan salmon, it's produced on this forest.
These are public lands. You know, we all depend on it, and the salmon are a huge part of it, and it is my responsibility as well as my coworkers and really all of our responsibility to maintain these conditions through time.
For now and for the future, the Tongass must remain the treasure that it is. A haven for salmon and other wildlife, a natural attraction that draws in millions, a bustling center of commerce, and a place that people of so many different walks of life can call home.
Renowned as the last frontier, Alaska's jaw-dropping landscapes stretch from sea to sea with staggering mountain ranges, impromptu encounters with rare wildlife, old mining towns, and striking natural attractions.
And there's no better way to see Alaska than on a cruise. No matter what the weather is, it's beautiful all year long.
Because some say that in Alaska, you can feel like you've experienced all 4 seasons in one day. But when you travel to Alaska on a cruise, you get the best of having access to all the adventures with the luxury of the ship's shelter and comforts. I took a journey aboard Princess Cruises' Royal Princess on a 7-day voyage of the glaciers. We sailed through Glacier Bay National Park, where we had access to these bodies of ancient ice. And from our cabin's balcony to the top deck, there was no shortage of finding the perfect viewpoint for glacier viewing and whale watching. Our journey took us to stops at the seaports of Ketchikan, the capital city of Juneau, Skagway, and our voyage ended in Whittier, each port stop offering access to experiences of a lifetime.
So 4 bears here. There's probably more, but our eyes can't really see them yet. Be patient.
And after the day's excursions, there's plenty of time to explore the town's charming shops, local eats, and local culture. Life back on the ship felt like staying on a floating resort, so we filled our social calendar with afternoon tea, shopping experiences, trivia, karaoke, and spa appointments, often ending our evenings with a nice meal at one of the fine dining restaurants, and then a live show at the Princess Theater.
You didn't come all this way just to stay on the ship. Let the adventure begin! Onward!
Fun fact, Alaska is not only the largest state, but the farthest north, east, and west. So there's only so much you can see from the ship. Adding a land tour to your experience allows you to see Alaska's interior with the convenience and luxury you experienced on the ship. And once on land, wildlife sightings are frequent, from spontaneous traffic stops because of a moose to jet boat rides where there are no shortages of getting good looks at the American bald eagle. And they're looking at us right back. It feels like a limitless adventure with so many opportunities to check off epic adventures from your travel wish list. Helicopter rides to see the glaciers from above, where we witnessed an avalanche from start to finish. Then it was a pilot's choice landing on the Herbert and Mendenhall glaciers, where we trekked to learn more about these fascinating and important frozen bodies of water, with crevasses so big it's hard to scale from above, but up close, it just leaves you in awe.
As you can imagine, absolutely no wildlife is out here. What can survive? There's nothing to eat.
So if wildlife spotting is a priority, then a trip through Denali National Park is a must-do experience. Denali is the highest mountain peak in North America, with a summit elevation of more than 20,000 feet above sea level. And it's often cloudy, with some visitors never getting to see its peak during their visit. But on our trip, we had 3 days of crystal clear views of this majestic summit. And in the national park, our luck with nature continued with sightings of Dall sheep, caribou, and 3 grizzly bears. The Princess Cruises Wilderness Lodges offer cozy and comfortable cabins with delicious food and the most fun and passionate staff. Everyone is just as eager to hear about what you saw today in Alaska as you are to share it. And with just a request from the front desk, they will give you a call in the middle of the night when the Northern Lights decide to put on a show.
Glaciers, wildlife, Denali. Princess Cruises, the #1 cruise line in Alaska, 9 straight years. And in 2017, Alaska comes alive like never before. And that's the difference between a vacation and a life-changing adventure. With 7 to 10-day itineraries and more than 100 cruise departures from May through September, the perfect Alaska vacation is waiting for you. This is the ultimate Alaska by Sea experience. This 7-day, one-way cruise travels between Vancouver and Whittier with north and southbound options. Cruise through the Inside Passage and sail 500 miles further north into beautiful Prince William Sound. This itinerary offers 2 spectacular glacier viewing opportunities, including the crown jewel, Glacier Bay National Park. Princess is one of the few cruise lines permitted to sail into this national treasure. You'll even experience a second glacier viewing at College Fjord or at massive Hubbard Glacier. Experience the dazzling Inside Passage. We offer 7 to 10-day round-trip options, including 7 days round-trip from Seattle, 7 days round-trip from Vancouver, or 10 days round-trip from San Francisco. No matter how long you sail, glacier viewing will not disappoint at either Glacier Bay or Tracy Arm Fjord, where you will see the striking Sawyer Glacier. Alaska's most storied ports. Explore them with Princess Shore excursions, including on Discovery and Animal Planet recommended or exclusive tours. In Juneau, visit the dramatic Mendenhall Glacier. Sail into waters where whale sightings are guaranteed. In Skagway, follow the footsteps of yesteryear's gold seekers on your way to the Klondike Summit. Get a chance to pan for gold, or hike along the famous Chilkoot Trail, followed by a float trip down the Taya River. Ketchikan defines the great outdoors. Explore the Alaska Rainforest Sanctuary, where you'll witness black bears in their natural habitat. Or take the deadliest catch crab fisherman's tour, and then get up close to abundant marine and wildlife. In Victoria, British Columbia, stroll the popular floral wonderland of Bouchard Gardens. Visit the iconic Fairmont Empress Hotel, a historic Canadian treasure. When you visit Alaska with Princess, you won't just see the great land, you will feel, touch, and taste it with our award-winning North to Alaska program. You'll meet real Alaskans like lumberjacks, storytellers, and authors. And then there's Iditarod champion Libby Riddles. And of course, real crabbers from Discovery Channel's Deadliest Catch. We also offer enriching opportunities for families, activities like Finding Bigfoot, and our popular Junior Ranger program. You'll taste the freshest seafood in your life in our dining rooms, and even sample specialties from local restaurants. Our chefs will even cook your catch in our galley, so you can enjoy it on board that evening. Experience the diverse history of Alaska, evoking Gold Rush glory days with our Klondike Festival, sled dog racing presentations, as well as native Tlingit art projects. Beyond Alaska's pristine shores, there's a whole other world to discover. Land and sea vacations are the very best way to see Alaska. Right from your ship, exclusive Princess Direct to the Wilderness rail service takes you to the heart of the great land. Combine your cruise with 3 or more nights on land and stay at exclusive Princess Wilderness Lodges, locations that put you on the doorstep of legendary parks. Denali National Park, Denali State Park, Wrangell St. Elias National Park, and Kenai Fjords National Park. Every land and sea vacation visits Glacier Bay and Denali National Parks, Alaska's top 2 destinations. We have more ways to explore Alaska, with more than 20 land and sea vacation itineraries to choose from. All options include rail service, a natural history tour into Denali National Park, as well as a nostalgic cruise aboard a stern-wheeler riverboat. Look for options offering exclusive direct-to-the-wilderness rail service, taking you from your ship to the Denali area in just one day. There is only one Alaska, and the experts agree, Princess is the best way to see this remarkable destination. That's why more people choose Princess for Alaska than any other cruise line. We invite you to join us in 2017 for a truly authentic and enriching Alaska vacation. You'll come back with new memories, new friends, and a new perspective on the world we live in. Start planning your next cruise today, and you can enjoy great savings. If you've sailed with us before, you qualify for special Captain's Circle launch savings of up to $100 off and a reduced deposit. But you must book early before this deal goes away. And don't forget to book your air with the all-new Princess Easy Air. You'll save time, money, and hassle. And best of all, you can book your cruise and air all in one place. Just visit princess.com to find surprisingly lower prices that give you all the benefits of a flexible ticket at the price of a restricted ticket. And you can change your flight up to 45 days prior to departure with no change fee. So you can book early and book worry-free. Plus, Princess Easy Air also offers late arrival protection, which ensures you'll get to your cruise even if your flight is delayed or canceled. We'll even get you home if the cruise is delayed, all at no extra cost. You won't get this service from any airline. If you have any questions or need help planning your next vacation, don't hesitate to contact your travel agent. Visit princess.com or call our offices to speak with our helpful cruise vacation planners. Princess Cruises. Come back new.